In this presentation, Dr. Samantha Bates, an assistant professor at The Ohio State University, talks about the importance of play for kids and adults across the ages, and also potential impacts of screen time and ways that you can keep your kids engaged and build their skills for development through play. So I hope you enjoy this presentation, and thank you so much, Dr. Bates, for being with us.
Well, welcome, Dr. Bates, so much for being here. We're excited to hear what you have to say and, be able to talk and discuss more as well.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I just want to start by saying what an amazing group this is and all the things you're doing for your kiddos. I mean, wow. Honored to be in the presence of all of you. And just as much as they try to tell me I'm some kind of expert at Ohio State, I don't ever believe them, because the actual experts are the people working with kids, right? And the parents and caregivers who see them every day. But Angela, I got the pleasure of speaking last year, so I'm going to kind of just do about 15 minutes, if it's okay, on the importance of play. And then I've also started doing some research on what we can learn about kind of the screen time. We know that phones and TVs are not going anywhere, but I've been really curious as we've moved post-COVID into how we can all be better adults for kids, knowing that screens are in our lives for good from here on out. So without further ado, I'm Dr. Samantha Bates from the College of Social Work. I am a licensed independent social worker and therapist for the last 9 years. And I do research on play and sports and the importance of those in young kiddos' development. So without further ado, I'm going to kind of walk us through just a couple things today. I want to sort of tap y'all on the head and just talk about what is play and the importance of it. I'm going to share 5 I call them my Fab 5 skills that we can be doing as parents and caregivers or coaches to help kids as they're playing, just learn how to process their emotions and self-regulate. And then I'll share some emerging research on kind of screen time and what that's starting to look like for kids and even us as adults. All right, so just really quick, I want everybody in the chat. What does play look like, feel like, or sound like to you? Think about play for yourself. What does it look like? Who's involved? What does it sound like? I hear some big laughs, right? That deep belly laugh the last time you played. Who's around you when you're having that fun? Where do you go to have play and joy? Right? It's all these things that kind of are inherently like purposeless, but they reset our mind. And so there's a lot of studies that show that play is voluntary. We choose to go do it, right? We want to go do it. We usually aren't as conscious of ourselves when we're playing. We feel a little less like we have to be somebody everybody's watching, right? It gives us kind of a pause. And we want to keep doing it. So one of the most important things for you all as caregivers is kind of doing a self-inventory on like, am I playing? And am I modeling for the kids around me that I'm playing? Because it's both good for kids and for you as caregivers. So I just want to kind of start like that. But I'm going to kind of go into the importance of this for kids. And so I'm going to do the nerdy scientist. What have we learned from animals and others? But we've actually found that animals that play, you can kind of see the polar bear here with the wolf, right? And we would think, oh gosh, that polar bear can absolutely crush the wolf, right? But what happens is these two actually start to play. And the reason they're playing is that it's actually good for both of them to learn how to adapt and get along, right? So animals that actually play survive because they have this skill of adapting. And that's actually the same for kids. At dinner with their girlfriends, if somebody's having a bad day, you probably pivot and adapt, right? And it's kind of making you stronger as a friend and adult. Same thing happens for kids. They play and then they realize, oh, maybe I've hurt someone's feelings and now I have to adapt, right? And change how I communicate or engage. And play really contributes to the development of empathy. Laughing about something silly that actually might have been kind of funny, right? So my joke in my office is I ran into a door this week. I literally have a black and blue bruise. And at first we laughed, it was all play, but then it also created some empathy among my team, right? If we can say it was purposeless and sort of playful and make jokes about it. So it kind of increases our ability to adapt and respond to others. And play actually feels like it's non-essential. We actually develop what's called attunement with other people. This helps us kind of calm down, regulate, feel like we get to reset our minds. All of these things for kids, whether it's play with objects or imaginary play or even social play with their siblings, is all really good for attunement, kind of getting in sync with each other's bodies and emotions. So that's really the importance of play today. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts? You can see the importance of it, right? Okay, so I'm going to move us a little bit further along. Kids play is so important, really helps develop the brain. Kids are actually learning problem solving through play. So granddaughter figuring out who to pass the ball to, right? She's doing some problem solving. And then also, it also can create empathy. So if they lose the game, we have to learn how to lose, right? We can't go around punching everybody. And so this sort of play creates this really situational environment where kids can learn some of the skills they need in life. So when today, if Zoom shuts down for me, it might feel similar to when I was 13, Tina, and we lost a basketball game, but I know I can't chunk the computer into the wall, right? Because that won't get me anywhere. I have to learn how to kind of lose or adapt and get back up and try again. So play and sports can be really great opportunities for kids to learn these skills. It's also really important that we know that play stimulates the part of the brain called the amygdala, which is where our emotions are processed. Now, every time you're driving your granddaughter to basketball, I want you to think, okay, this is helping her become a better adult and being able to regulate her emotions by playing and learning how to get along with others. It also helps strengthen what's called the prefrontal cortex, which is where we make decisions. So all of those things can happen through play and especially sports. And then what about us as adults? Studies actually show that adults who play are happier, feel more satisfaction. And then this is really fascinating. Anybody love a good like murder mystery novel or a crime show? Yeah. So studies actually show that sometimes the serial killer or the person that's sort of, the bad guy in our shows often have a lifelong history of a lack of play. They didn't play as kids. They didn't get to play as adults. And so this can stimulate sort of a lack of empathy, right? And an inability to make rational decisions. Isn't that fascinating research coming out of the play realm? I also love this for those of you in romantic relationships. My husband and I talk about this often. Play is actually a predictor of stronger social bonds in our romantic relationships. So if we go do something we haven't done in a while, it can make you feel socially connected and have stronger ties so that when you do face adversity, you feel closer and tighter together because you've played together. Kind of comes back to that adaptation. So even though you think, oh, we don't have time or energy to go do that really fun thing, it's actually really important for you all as caregivers because it helps you relationally as well. So really, really important finding there. And then this one's a big one for me. As we get older, there are actually studies starting to show that the more that we play, puzzles, socializing, laughing, that it's actually correlated with the decreased risks of Alzheimer's disease. So this is again pointing to the power of play and kind of taking care of our minds and bodies. All right, Dr. Bates, do we get it? We get the importance of play for kids, for us in our relationships. Play is so, so important. All right, so how can we sort of, when your kids are playing, be the best adults, right, to support their healthy play and development? So has anyone seen the Fab Five on shows? Y'all know the Fab Five will come redecorate your house and cook for you and tell you what to wear. And for me, these Fab Five kind of can outline 5 really good skills we can do to support kids during play. So the number one skill I often talk about is play gives us a lot of opportunities as adults to just help them reflect feelings. So 1, we can reflect feelings. 2, for a lot of your kids, I'm not sure what their backgrounds are, but sometimes we see kids in kinship care or foster care or other traumatic situations feel like they have a lack of choice, right? And say in maybe what's going on in their life. Play is an awesome opportunity to give them back some decision making. So if you're playing a board game or playing cards, you might say, do you want to pass out the cards and be the dealer, or do you want me to be the dealer? Even those small questions in play give kids a lot of autonomy and feelings like they get to make some decisions. So it's a great environment to do some of those things. I'm a therapist. I actually use a lot of sport And I also use sport and play as an opportunity to teach kids how to communicate when they need a break. Okay, so if you have those kiddos maybe with those ADHD, or they sort of get kind of overwhelmed easily, we can use play activities to say, ooh, what did you feel in your body? And what could we have done differently than maybe throw the game board piece or throw the cards, right? And this gives them the opportunity to reflect through play on different ways they could respond and make different decisions. All right, so those are 2 of the Fab 5 skills. Number 3 is actually facilitating their self-esteem. This is a really hard one. When our kids are playing sports, we want to go, oh my gosh, you got 20 points, right? Well, that's performance praise. That actually puts kind of a number on what we think is good performance. That can actually be kind of stressful for kids. If you ever think about Monopoly and you get $400, it's like, you got $400. Well, we're getting too much around these perfectionist tendencies with a number on what play looks like. Instead, what we really want to do is move into process praise. So this is when you go out to basketball and watch your granddaughter, I love seeing how hard you were working at basketball today. What this shows her granddaughter, right, is that you can actually use hard work in other places and there's no number or value on it. So play gives us this great feedback for kids on, I loved seeing you do X, Y, Z. Okay, so there's process versus performance praise that can be good there as well. And then, as many of you know, play can allow us to set some limits. So I get a lot of kids that say, I want to karate chop you, or I want to throw the ball at your head, right? And I'll say, well, you can throw the ball at the wall or you can throw the ball at the ground. Which do you want to do? But you cannot throw the ball at me. These types of lessons also help kids set limits and know how to go to practice or engage with their peers at sports or play activities. So these are some examples. We can also, it's a really important parenting skill of, we can actively ignore kids until they do the behaviors that we want to see. So I'll give you an example. If I'm playing a board game with one of my kids in a therapy session and they start to cheat or stop following the rules, I'll actually start doing something else because they want my attention until they come back and do the behavior that I want to see. This actually teaches them your limits, right? I'm not going to play with you till we follow the rules. And it can be done through nonverbal, just active ignoring. Right when I see the kiddo do the right thing, I'm immediately giving praise. Thank you so much, Josiah, right, for getting the rules and getting back to the game. I'm really excited to play with you. So these can be really great things we can do during play, and it's a really, really great strategy. And then the last thing we can do is sometimes emotions or things outside of play bubble up, and we can kind of enlarge the meaning for kids. So as our example, after the basketball game, she just has a total meltdown. And what you realize is that it has nothing to do with the basketball game. I just really need you to hear and see me today, right? So one of the things I'll do with my kids is have some Post-it notes and maybe write down what they're feeling, sad, frustrated, right? Talk to me more about these. And we go through each of the Post-it notes that happened after our play experience to figure out what else is going on. And I really love this language of, would it be okay if we just took a moment to hear and figure out what's going on for you? Because the play experience has caused something else to come out. Does that make sense? So we can enlarge the meaning there. So those are our 5 skills. I know Angela's got this recorded, so we can share them out after. But I want you to all know that play creates all of these kind of simulations of what could happen in real life when kids engage with you or their peers. So we have this nice opportunity to figure out emotionally what's going on and teach them better ways to communicate. Right. So the final part for me is, I'm sure you're all wondering, all right, kids aren't playing as much. Can we all raise our hands and say that's definitely true with phones and TVs, right? You agree? They have more access to technology. There is a lot of research that says kids can still learn skills on their phones and screens, but we as adults have to sort of monitor. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of this that's coming out. So a lot of studies are showing that we want to keep kids, depending on their age, between 2 and 4 hours of screen time. Anything beyond that, depending on their age, again, can be viewed as excessive screen time. And that's actually being shown to cause issues with regulation, being able to calm down or even get excited. So we tend to see kind of anxiety on one spectrum and depression on the other. Okay. The other do that's really nice and coming out is kids can actually watch shows with you. Let's watch a show together. Absolutely great. One of the best things we can do is then have a conversation about the show after. What did you all think about that? Maybe use a character example. What did you think when Detective so-and-so yelled at XYZ? What do you think would have been better, right? We can actually use the TV show to have conversations about behavior. And that's actually showing that it can help kids figure out behaviors they want to use in their real life. We also want to make sure what they're watching is appropriate, makes sense to their age. And then we want to have some shared expectations on, hey, once this show is over, getting them ready for transitions off of technology back into something productive. Maybe that's after this commercial, we're going to go brush our teeth. Then we can come back and watch the end of the show. These shared expectations can help kids navigate technology. And then these don'ts kind of play into what's coming out is we are all guilty of getting on our phones and going, oh, I'm just going to kind of disappear for a while, right? And so the biggest thing that is coming out is sometimes adults or even kids use the phone to escape navigating what's going on with them emotionally. This new term's called technoference. Kind of makes me think of like the Wi-Fi not working. We're not connecting, we're letting technology interfere with our ability to figure out what's going on. So there's a lot of kind of don'ts around giving kids a cell phone just to get them to quiet down. That's actually shown to kind of incentivize bad behavior because then they'll think, cool, I can just act up and then going to give me a cell phone, right? There's a lot of research showing that anything really fast paced for younger kids under age 9 can actually impact their executive functioning. So it can be negative for them to intake information. And then we want to just be guides. Whatever they're watching or looking at on the screen, the more you can talk to them about it, the better they'll be able to transfer what they're taking in and apply it to their real life. So there's a lot of kind of don'ts around having kids solely on social media or TV alone, kind of navigating that space alone. So this is sort of what's happening around social emotional learning with screens. So hopefully you can take away something that, oh, I need to maybe think about that, or there's an opportunity there for me or my child to kind of have some more limits there. But that was my presentation. I know it's really hard on Zoom, but I thought, Angela, it'd be really fun for everybody to maybe brainstorm some way they could incorporate play into their household or daily lives. Or, one of the ways you currently address kind of screen time or technology, or a way you want to get better in that regard.
So I just want to say thank you so much again, Dr. Bates, for this insightful and informative presentation. I encourage everyone watching it to think about these questions for themselves and maybe challenge yourself to have a goal of one way you can incorporate play into your life or the child you're caring for life, or maybe even an idea you got about technology and how you can facilitate that. So I hope this gave you something to think about, and thanks for watching.